Welcome. Today's video is going to be about Splendor. Splendor is a deceptively simple game with expansive strategy possibilities, with good player interaction, and it's a generally well-balanced game, and it's very accessible to different types of strategy players. The rules are very simple. There's a solitary win condition, which is to get to 15 points. You can get that either by buying the cards that have the number of points indicated in the top left, or by achieving the nobles, which you get by acquiring a certain number of cards of a certain color. On each turn, there are 4 things you can do. You can take 3 coins, each of a different color. There are 5 colors: white, blue, green, red, and black. You can take 2 coins of the same color, with some restrictions. The restriction being, if you take 2, you can't take more than half the stack. So if there's 3 coins, you can't take 2. You can take a gold coin, which allows you to, it's basically a wild card. You get the gold coin, and then you can take one of the cards from the set and put it face down in your hand to buy later. This protects your card from being bought or prevents other people from buying the cards that they want, while also allowing you to build up the color that you need the most of. Finally, you can make a buy, and you just pay the amount that the card indicates. Any cards that you already own count as a coin of their color. So if you have a card with a red gem, you owe 1 less red coin for your buy. What you've been seeing is a standard layout of the game. There are 3 tiers of cards: green, yellow, and blue, which have rising costs and point values. There's also the nobles across the top. There's always 1 more noble than the number of players, and their cost is indicated by the number of cards you need for you to obtain the noble, which tends to be 3 of 3 kinds or 4 of 2 kinds. To give the building blocks of the strategy for this game, first we'll examine some of the first tier cards, the second tier cards, and the third tier cards to see that you can get similar things for very wildly different costs. This is the root of the different strategies in this game, because different people value different cards differently, based on which type of approach you're taking. Looking at these cards, which are all of the red gem cards from the green tier, you can see that there's cards of very different costs, and some cards that are just straight up worse than other cards that are available to you. For example, the card on the bottom right costs 3 gems total and no more than 2 of any one color. This is the cheapest and probably best red gem card. Probably also followed by the 3 white gem card, because both of these cards only cost 3. Then there's 3 more cards that cost 4 gems. The one that costs 1 of each, this card is also very good. The one that costs 2 and 2, this card is also good. And the one that costs 4 of 1 kind. This card is good, but it also costs a lot of 1 kind, and so can't be bought in the early game. You'll be unlikely to be able to buy it before you hit your 10 coin cap, and so it's not really an opening card, but it's a good mid-game card. The 3 remaining cards all cost 5 to obtain the same card with no points. These cards can be dangerous to you if you buy them early and waste all your coins, but it depends on what you're trying to do. These cards can be valuable, but you should be aware that there are almost always better options coming if you're looking out for all the different options that are available. These cards are the second tier cards, or the yellow-backed ones. You can see that there's a divergence between the value of these cards as well. The 1-point cards cost 7 or 8 coins, and this 3-point card costs only 6, but all the same kind. It is more difficult to obtain more coins of the same color, but that can be one of the ways that you can be efficient about trying to achieve your goals. The 15 points is by taking advantage of that discount that you get for achieving more coins of the same kind. You can also see that there are cards that are just straight better and worse. If you compare the lower 2 2-point cards, they both cost 5 black, but the middle one also costs 3 white coins to obtain the same card. So by knowing that there's different values and costs across these cards, you can be able to say, oh, this card's a good card. When the 5 cost black one comes up, you know that that's a good card that you're going to aim for. And that these 1-pointers in the mid row are going to be relatively dangerous to you in terms of overbuying and underproducing. The other thing to notice here is the colors that these cards cost. Specifically on the yellow tier, there's an interaction between the colors. You can see on these cards that red, black, and white can buy you almost everything on all of these cards. Red, black, and white pair up their costs together, and green and blue pair up their costs together. This doesn't hold all the way, but it's a strong enough trend that it's valuable to know. So red, black, and white, or green and blue. Finally, we have the blue-backed cards, or the third-tier cards. These cards all have the same types of costs across all the colors. So there'll be a 7 and 3, there'll be a 7, there'll be a 6 and 2 threes, and a 5 and 3 threes. These cards are valuable to different players and different strategies. They're all good. The more vertical strategies will tend to like the 7 and 3 and the 7 cost cards because they're very accessible. The more diverse strategies, the ones that will include the nobles as part of their win condition, will really appreciate the other 2 types because they're more accessible to them. These cards are costed specifically to prevent them from being able to be bought in the early game or even the mid game, because 7 of one kind is all the coins of that kind. So if any other player has any coin, it's impossible for you to buy this without the use of yellows. So you need to have several, typically 3 cards of your main color here to be able to get 3 or 4 coins of that straight vertical color to be able to afford these very valuable endgame cards. The last thing I wanted to do in this video was to do an example where we worked over a real-life example and to introduce a simple strategy that I like to use, especially for more social players. It kind of streamlines the decision-making process. I kind of call it like a 1-in-1 strategy, where you have one card in mind that you're trying to get, and then you have a backup card that costs similar coins, so that you're able to make progress towards 2 goals at the same time. And so you always have one card that you want, and then not a backup card, but the next card after that you're going to buy. So in this example, in this card set, you could look at the first tier cards, and you could have there's kind of 2 directions. You could go for like this black card here in the bottom, and you could take red, green, black, and then you could go for 3 of the yellow cards as your second card. You could go for either of those 1-pointers would be a good second buy there. The strength of this strategy is going to be that you're going to be taking either 3 coins or making a buy. Those are the 2 things you can do in your turn. Take 3 coins or make a buy. And so you never want to be doing anything else. And the strength of this strategy is kind of going to be like a brute force version. You're not going to compete for the best cards. You're not going to need to know anything about what's coming. You're just going to look at what's out there, pick 2 things you can buy, take those coins, and if you've got enough coins to buy them, you make a buy right now. That's the whole strategy. And just as things come up, you'll eventually get a solid batch of cards that'll allow you to make purchases more quickly. And you'll have probably a pretty solid distribution if you're doing this correctly, like an endgame balance of maybe like 4 green, 4 yellow, and 2 blue to end the game. And so that would be a pretty solid way to pursue this strategy. Remember that you only can have 10 coins at a time, which at the beginning of the game will mean that you can only take coins for 3 consecutive turns. So that means that you can't buy your first buy will almost certainly have to be a green card, and probably your second buy should be a green card. But after that, the door's open to make those higher level cards happen. But because we're not taking two of a color, cards like these 2.5 costers, which are typically excellent cards, are not going to be part of our main plan because of their color concentration. So that's the way that strategy works, and we can maybe pursue that further in another video. But that 1-in-1 strategy is pretty easy. You either take 3 coins or you make a buy. You have 1 card in mind, and you have 1 card as your second card that you're going to buy after you buy the card that you're going to do. Another, just to give it a second example here, you could do blue, green, black coins, and that would allow you to buy either of the blue or green gems on the left on the green row, and prepare you to buy the 2-point green card on the second tier. That because you'd only need, you'd have 3 blue, 3 green, and at least 1 white, and a couple other cards, probably 2 black. And that would allow you to make buys in that direction. And that would kind of set you up to do the green-blue color pairing for your strategy. So we're going to sign off there, and I hope you had a good time.